Hey, my name is Jason Young. I'm a VIP Kid teacher. I have been a VIP Kid teacher for over 2 years. Sorry about that. And I'm here to talk to you about my schedule and how I build up my schedule. So when I initially started with VIP Kid, I did it part-time. Initially, I was actually only interested in working on Friday nights, a little bit on Saturday, and a few shifts on Sunday. Um, the first month, I think I taught maybe 35 or 60 classes. It wasn't very many. I was like so many other teachers. And then things kind of grew. So I started in the spring, right after or right before the Chinese New Year. I got really lucky and got a lot of trials, and I just dug in. I liked doing the trials. At one point, I had a conversion rate of over 75%, and I just kind of made it my mission um, just to be as the best trial teacher that I could be. At that time, I started to build up very small resources to kind of support the trial classes. Nothing really intense, just a couple things here and there. Um, Rolling into that summer, I made a decision that I was going to work from home full time with VIP Kid. Was a teacher in a public school system. I was a special ed teacher. Preface this, I was an engineer before I was a teacher, and I really had just only been a teacher for 2 years. And I decided, I needed to dig in. I didn't want to work um, another job and have to quit at the end of the summer. I thought I'm already got this great part-time job. I'll just increase my hours. And so that's what I did. I increased my hours throughout the summer. And by the second month of the summer, um, I was working a lot. I was opening up pretty much as many that I could because I wanted to make over like two and a half, like about $3,000 for the month. And, at the time, I could only teach maybe five or six in a row. And I thought that was a lot. Um, and then I made the mistake one week and I opened up like every slot that, like four or 5 days every slot, and I filled every one of them. And so that was my first time by fire teaching more than six classes in a row. I think the first time I taught was like 24 classes in a row. Um, the teaching wasn't difficult because I was somewhat familiar with the trial. I was familiar with some of the earlier lessons. I had built up kind of a pool of students. I didn't have a ton. I had like under 100 followers. Um, but I kind of knew like they were all about the same level, so I kind of knew what the lessons looked like. Um, what really hurt me was writing reports. And I'm going to talk about that in a later video. But this is just a synopsis of my personal journey through VIP Kid. Nearing the end of the summer, I kind of had to make a decision. Was I going to renew my contract and go back to the public school system, or was I just going to try to trudge in and be a substitute teacher and just try to do VIP Kid from home? You know, and I'm so much different than other people because I wasn't a teacher um, my whole career. So I was like in a transitional period. And for me, I thought, you know what? I'm going to just try this stay at home deal for a while and I'll sub during the day and I'll work weekends with VIP Kid and maybe pick up some earlier morning slots before I sub. That was my goal. And I went with that. And then I saw my followers start to increase and my bookings started getting consistent. And so I decided subbing was great, and I loved being a substitute teacher. I was actually a really good sub. You know, the science classes, the math classes, the English classes, they were all easy for me. As an engineer, I was constantly writing reports. I was constantly collecting data and analyzing it. I was interested in science, so that was like teaching those subjects in school were really easy for me. Um, but I always felt like a disconnect in the schools. Do you know what I mean? I was like the guy who was the engineer that everyone was like, "Well, why aren't you an engineer?" And I said, "Well, I'm making a decision. I'm transitioning my position." I had gotten laid off. I lived in a rural part of West Virginia. I didn't want to move again because my daughter was settled into school. And so I said, I'm just going to give this a try. I can work from home, I make decent money, and I can sub and be a part of the community. Long story short, I decided I was going to start to market myself and build up my clientele and build up my followers because I wanted a little bit more security with VIP Kid. And so I started offering themed classrooms. And you can see like some of my boards behind me are themed. So this is like a Frozen themed board, and that's kind of how I built my classroom. Was I started to offer special rewards, special themed boards, um, and I started just to say, okay, I want to teach this time slot on this day or these days. And I said, okay, I know that these kids are more likely to take the classes and this is what level they are. And I would look on Chinese social media and say, okay, these are the pop references that are really popular right now. And I would build my boards based off of those things. And then I would hashtag it and make videos with MannyCam and post them like an advertisement on WeChat. And I would just hashtag them. I was lucky. Uh, we Weibo wasn't is overrun by VIP kid teachers at the time. So I was one of the only people that was doing what I was doing was making videos and offering themed classrooms. And I always that's what I always looked for was the niche. What were other teachers not doing? And then I would come in and I would do something completely different because I wanted to bolster up my following, and that's what I did. Um, and in the long run, I found out that I could build like a follower base that was maybe 400 or 500 to a follower base that was like 1,000 in a few weeks. And, you know, there was good to that. There was bad to that. I had backlash from parents saying, hey, you're too popular. I can't schedule you now. There were kids that I loved to teach and they couldn't get my class, and I didn't have any control of that. And so I lost some students, or they hung on and I would see them every couple weeks. Sometimes I wouldn't see them for a month, and I missed them. But I also realized that at one point they were going to move on anyways. They were either going to transition out of the program, they were going to age out, they were going to find another teacher. It wasn't anything I can control. So I didn't make it a personal, like, oh no. I decided I love the kids. When I see them great. When I don't, it's fine. But when I did see them, I always wanted to create a really fun environment for them. And that's kind of what I try to do as a teacher. Um, and so I just continued to build and build and build and build my following and just have that logic. Like if I didn't see them, I didn't see them. And, but I was really focused on building slots. So it's really difficult to work in the evening on the East Coast because there's just not a lot of kids. And I just became like with the trials really awesome at pre-VIP. It's funny because I actually worked as an elementary school teacher, and I gotta be honest, sometimes I hated it because I didn't like always teaching so down at a lower level. Um, but the pre-VIP kid program for me was kind of like drama. It was like a theater, and I got to act silly, and I got to use really big giant props, and I kind of built up a rapport with those kids because there wasn't a lot of those kids at those time slots. So that was a time slot where those kids could easily book me. It was the Saturday afternoon kids, it was the Friday afternoon kids that were having trouble booking me. And so I just built my schedule um, based off of those time slots that I wanted that were difficult to get. I knew a lot of teachers wanted them, but they may not have had the right certification or they didn't have the pool of followers that they needed because they weren't doing themed classrooms or they weren't advertising a special theme for a certain period of time to attract new kids at that age level. And that's what I did. And I'm now pushing 3,000 followers. I actually today I taught my 2,000th student, so I'm a big shot now, a VIP big shot. I'm actually excited about that because for me it was teach as many kids as I can, form the bonds where I can, but just master the curriculum, take ownership of my schedule, and let everything else follow through. And that's what I did. And so, everything that I did to build where I'm at today, like this week, I'm working 148 slots. That seems like a lot, but it's really not. It's a little excessive this week because I'm just getting ready for Chicago. I normally don't work that many, but I like to work a lot. Um, I feel like I have a lot of free time when I'm not at work. I've actually figured out how to do the feedback within the 5 minutes. I know it sounds crazy, but it's possible. For 2 years, I didn't think it was. It is. I just, like the 24 classes, I just dove in and just started doing it. And it's actually worked out really well for me. Um, but my point is this, and I know I'm a rambler. My point is this, is you can be and do whatever you want on this platform if you know what you want and you use a plan that helps you reach your goals. You know, if your goal is to be a full-time pre-VIP kid teacher on Saturday and Sunday mornings and you're getting stuck with level fives and sixes, then you have to learn to market yourself to those kids. You have to make sure that when you have those kids in the classroom that you are giving off that pre-VIP kid persona. Okay? If you want to become a full-time teacher like myself, and I tell people that I make, six, push $7,000 a month, not because I'm gloating, but because I want people to know that a regular guy like me, okay, with a little bit of education, experience, can build out a classroom that can market and attract the kids that you want that can help you make this a full-time gig. And, you know, I'm not always the best teacher. I try to be the best. I'm not the best. I know there's teachers out there that would just blow me out of the water, but I'm always better than I was before. You know, I always encourage parents to give me negative feedback. I know some people are like, "What?" Yeah, because I want parents to be honest with me. Because if I was a parent and I was paying as much as they are, I would want that teacher to know that this is what my expectations are. And if you're not meeting them, this is what you need to do to meet them. And um, that's always been a big part of my game. I have um, like 19 less than 5-star ratings. I have like 10 negative ratings, and I love every one of them. Some people complain. I actually encourage parents to give me negative ratings. I say, when you give me a negative rating and you provide details, that's when I get better. If you just give me 5-star and say, great, nice job, I'll never improve. But when you start to give me true feedback, that's when I get better as a teacher. Sometimes you got to put yourself in the hot seat. Okay? Again, my name is Jason Young. I can ramble, but I love to share what I know. And I don't always have the time to do it individually, but I'm going to try to do more of this so I can help you build your VIP Kid classroom and help you reach your goals. No cost, no money. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to be a part of the community and I want to help people because VIP Kid has been a blessing to me. And I cannot see myself doing anything but this job um, for a long time. I always got some things in the eye, some coals in the fire, they say. But for right now, I love working for VIP Kid. I respect all the teachers that do what they do. Um, I'm always encouraging people to do a little more, but reach your goals. I will see you in the classroom.